Welcome everybody to this video. I guess you can already tell by the title what this video is about, but nonetheless, you might be wondering why you're seeing some footage I recorded with an action cam on a recent walk through a wooded area. Don't worry, I'd be happy to lift the fog of uncertainty in just a moment. But first, I want to talk about the importance of rituals in our modern times. And I'm afraid the first thing all you think of when I say rituals is probably the religious sort of ritual. Anything, really, ranging from animal sacrifice to purification rituals, or to rituals still practiced like Yom Kippur, the marriage ceremony, and the holy month of Ramadan, just as a few examples. And there's nothing wrong with that, because almost all rituals that still exist and are practiced today are of religious nature. And that's because most of us have willingly or unwillingly as a society dropped most of our rituals because they do interfere with our private life and our work life. And the only place outside of religion where rituals really have still survived would probably be sports. But now, let me explain why you're looking at some trees and not at my face. Every 2 weeks or so, I go out on the weekends and spend some time in one of the forests around here in southwest Germany, and I can tell you there are plenty of them. And there are many reasons why I do this, but the primary one is it's simply a great way to relax, unwind, and chill. Something that we all should do from time to time. Something that sadly comes too short for most people. And the second reason is because I feel like it grounds me. You know, being in nature where I usually don't come across a lot of people, breathing in the fresh air and listening to birds singing and just feeling how the wind encloses me, it just empties my mind of all this ridiculous nonsense that people are usually confronted with in their concrete jungle. It shows me, even if it's just for a couple of hours, how small I am in this world, how small we humans are in this world. And at the same time, this realization makes me appreciate every aspect of life even more. So to wrap this up, I go into the forest to relax and ground myself. Now, I'm not a hippie, nor am I a tree hugger or anything like that. But this ritual, I promise, works like magic. And yes, you heard that right. I just called my bi-weekly journey into Mother Nature a ritual. That's because it is. Now, the Merriam-Webster dictionary lists an act or series of acts regularly repeated in a set, precise manner as a possible definition for ritual. At this point, I have a question for you, and I sincerely hope you're being honest. Simply based on this definition, do you still think very negatively about rituals? If you do, then please allow me to present my case for the importance of rituals in our modern times. I'm not at all trying to win you over here. I just think that we'd all benefit profoundly if we had some rituals in our life. One reason would be because these precisely premeditated and rigid acts have the ability to deeply stir our emotions. If you've ever been to a marriage or a funeral before, you most likely know what I'm talking about right now. Furthermore, rituals tell us what to feel and when to feel. At least they are supposed to. By that, I mean certain kinds of rituals are designed to induce a certain feeling or allow you to express a certain feeling. Just as a funeral is supposed to allow the relatives to freely express and cope with grief in unison, and the national holiday and the ceremonies accompanying it, like on Independence Day, gives us the chance to celebrate. and I would totally understand if many Europeans or Westerners in general nowadays have trouble with the thought of limiting certain emotions to a certain time or event. However, the alternative to this approach would be to banish all the feelings you can express into your private life. And this is the current state of affairs here in Europe and in general in the Western world. But don't you just blindly believe and accept everything I'm telling you right now. Think for yourself, weigh the pros and cons, and see which approach you agree with the most. At this point, I should probably admit that although I live here in Europe, my upbringing wasn't necessarily very Western. While I do study Plato, Socrates, Locke, Kant, and many more philosophers of the Western Hemisphere, I have to admit that I'm much more drawn to the writings of Confucius, Lao Tzu, Siddhartha Gautama, and many other Far Eastern philosophers and mystics. And I couldn't allow myself not to share a story from the Analects, a collection of Confucius' teachings here. The story is about the so-called ritual propriety, which is basically everything I just mentioned earlier in defense of rituals. Now, it is said that one of Confucius' disciples, Tse Kung, once refused to ceremonially sacrifice a lamb, to which Confucius responded with, "Tse, you love the sheep, I love the ceremony." And while this story might seem very barbaric and confusing to some of you, it's simply meant to convey the importance of rituals to the reader. And if such bizarre stories don't turn you off, I invite you to pick up the Analects for yourself. Read them in English, or if you're really brave, in Mandarin. And there's a link in the description for you. It'll show you just how deeply rituals are integrated into Asian culture. Apart from that, there's one more thing I want to touch on, and it's the difference between a ritual and a habit. Now, we all have our own little habits, probably since they are much more widely accepted in modern society. May it be checking your emails the first thing every morning, or drinking a glass of red wine every Friday when you get back from work. So you could call them a set of acts regularly repeated in a set, precise manner. However, there is a distinction between checking your emails every morning and daily meditation, or having a cold shower every Monday morning and a walk in the forest on every Saturday. At least, in my opinion, there is. Because the way I see it, a ritual goes one step further than a habit. Both could actually be defined as an act or series of acts regularly repeated in a set, precise manner. But rituals have a deeper meaning. If you are checking your email every morning, you're just doing it because you more or less have to read your email sooner or later, so you just dedicate a certain time of the day to checking your emails. However, I don't go into the forest or meditate on a daily basis because I have to. No, I use these rituals to put myself in a certain mindset, to evoke certain feelings. The actions, may it be going into the forest or meditation, are just, for lack of a better word, tools. Tools that allow me to get to something deeper. The precise actions are just on the surface. That's why I titled this video, The Importance of Rituals, not the importance of habits. Still, I can assure you that you're going to see these two words, rituals and habits, being used interchangeably all the time. Just as an example, I'm currently reading this great book, Essential Zen Habits, Mastering the Art of Change, briefly, by Leo Babauta. There'll be a link in the description, of course. And it really seems like he's talking about rituals all the time, but calls them habits. Luckily now, you can differentiate them, like I do, by inspecting if the action talked about has a deeper meaning, a deeper purpose, or if the action itself is the purpose. And at this point, I would like to purposely put an end to my output. What are your thoughts? Feel free to share them in the comments. Please tell me if you like this format of me walking through the forest. And in case you've liked the video, of course, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you'd like to be notified when more of my stuff comes out. That's it for now. Until next week. Bye.